Where we got the record button popping up? There it is. We're live. We're live.
Yeah, we're good.
All right. Welcome back to the Man Knows Hip Hop podcast featuring myself, the notorious Jigs, aka Slack Bundles, and my guys. My guys have joined this week.
Yes.
I'm gonna let them introduce themselves as usual.
Yeah, you know me by now. E Major here on the podcast. Man Knows Hip Hop, man. It's gonna be a good one this week, man. Snips, introduce yourself, man.
I appreciate you guys having me on. Snips, what can I say? Hip hop enthusiast, troublemaker, DJ, producer, opinionated prick. However you want to describe me, man.
That's all good, man. That's all good.
Snips, man, tell them a little bit about your last project, man, because the last beat tapes you dropped, man.
Yeah,
they're in rotation, bro.
Currently doing like a weekly beat tape that I'm adding to. It's called 52 Beats, which, you know, for the heads that know, was inspired by the Kid Capri 52 Beats tape that he did back in the day, and I just wanted to do a thing to kind of keep me focused during lockdown. So I just added a new beat every week to it. We're 41 weeks in now, so nearly done. Yeah, the whole theme is I do a video, show how I'm making the beat, put it up on Bandcamp, and then every 3 months I drop a volume on Spotify and iTunes and stuff. So the third volume actually drops on Friday, and then we're like 3 months away from the whole thing being finished. And I'm gonna do like a little run of cassettes at the end of it. So there's that. There's the gospel project I just did, which is all which is like a hip hop project. A couple of house records on there as well, but it's all based around gospel samples. So
that was dope, man. I like that.
Yeah, man. I'm proud of that project. So the vinyl for that just dropped as well. So, you know, vinyl heads, go and cop that. Otherwise,
was that the one with the Jesus piece on it? That's the last one I got. Yeah, that was fire. Yeah.
Had a couple interesting conversations about the choice of artwork and what I was trying to get across with it as well. Because obviously a lot of people thought it kind of is Arabic writing on the front, but it's actually Aramaic, which is the language that Jesus spoke.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, because I was like, I use it in English. Should I do Hebrew? Should I do Arabic? Like, I'm neither Arab or Jew, so I don't want it to be seen like, you know, I don't want to get caught in a Twitter shitstorm of like cultural reappropriation. So when I realized that I could get translation from actual language Jesus spoke, I was like, yeah, let me do that. That's probably the best bet. And the whole cover was like a piss take on the fact that if you think about like popular music, or like, you know, hip hop music, black music in general, gospel music is such an integral part of the sound of music, whether you're talking about soul or jazz or whatever, but it's like the least commodified. And then if you think about religion, because I'm not a religious person like that, but if you think about religion is such a commodified part of everything and the way people use it. So the whole kind of like overly encrusted Jesus piece being such a symbol in hip hop and that being a reflection of the materialism within it, I just thought, it's a good like kind of tongue in cheek reference.
You know that satire goes over a lot of heads, right? Especially a lot of people that might actually go buy that record, man. They might not catch on to the satire piece, man.
You know what my thing is that people don't have to get it, but as long as I can explain it, if I'm ever questioned on it, then I'm good. What I didn't want to happen was people like, are you taking the piss out of religion? Are you using Arabic writing? Are you like, so
I thought that might happen though. When you dropped it and I saw the Jesus piece and you had said that it was all gospel inspired music, I was like, I wonder if people are going to get at my guy for this one.
But look at Alchemist and Budgie, man. They're two atheist Jewish guys making like gospel based sampled hip hop.
Yes, like, man. It's a sound, isn't it?
You know?
True. But we can put some links in for your music if you want to do that, and you can drop it below.
Yeah, that'd be appreciated.
So that'll be dope, man.
Definitely, man. We'll sort that out, man.
Wicked.
Nice, right? So, E, man, let them know what we're talking about this week, man. This is gonna be a good one.
Yeah, man. I just want to pre-warn you. There seems to be a bit of a lag today, so apologies in advance, man. But today we're speaking about a generational divide. So we want to basically chop it up about hip hop in its entirety, just understanding, or even just speaking about the difference in the generation, not only just the differences, but the lack of respect sometimes in some areas, you know what I mean? Just the change of styles and just how hip hop's like a house divided now. Do you know what I mean? It's almost become one of those things. There's like a civil war going on. It's almost like there's just warring inside of itself. And instead of having that just respect that we had coming up, because we know, you know, as we mentioned, we're more or less the same age, but we would listen to a certain type of sound or a certain type of artist, and you'd be speaking to your elders about it, saying, "Oh man, what do you think of this? Check it out." There'd always be that respect level there because the skill was there and the sound was there, and even though it was different, you could see like the variation. But now it's just like a completely different kettle of fish, man. It's like we almost hard to even recognize something as hip hop now, man. So I think it's a good topic for us to just talk about today, man. The generation divide, man, and what we're thinking about it, man, and our thoughts on it.
Yeah, 100%.
And yeah, man. Any ideas, any concepts, man? We throw it in, man. So
yeah, for real,
yeah, man.
First
so
of all, man,
today.
let me just say for all the sensitive people who might be tuning in, we ain't here to shit on the young people, man. Like, you know, some young people do make really dope music. Some young people really do care about the origins of the culture. They really are tuned in and plugged in. So this ain't about old people, you know, shitting on young people.
100%.
Nothing like that. You know what I mean?
Well, plenty of old people as well that hold up the bullshit and are often even more to blame for the direction of the music than younger people are. So
facts. And I think that a big problem is like a lot of people our age didn't pass it down to people coming. So we, you know, a lot of the blame might lie with people sort of our generation. You know what I mean? Like
100%.
Playing Keith Murray and you know Def Squad and them kind of songs in the house or whatever it may be. But there seems to come a point around maybe, I don't know, up until about 98, I'd say. I was all in. I was sold. Hip hop was, from the time I was sort of 8 years old. I think when my mom played me 3 Feet High and Rising. That was it for me. It was hip hop, right?
Yeah.
Up until about when Biggie died, a big part of me was like Biggie was my guy. Like, love that guy. And the way that he died and everything surrounding it and how stupid it was for him to be in LA at a time when there was, you know, the civil war going on within hip hop and all of that. And then we had the bling era as soon as he died. And it almost felt like he had to be removed for that bling era to flourish. Does that make sense? And I just really hated that era, that whole jiggy, shiny suit.
Use the P word whenever you're ready, bro.
Bro, you know where I'm going with this, bro.
There we go, man.
You know where I'm going with
dreaded P.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
so, from there to about 2001, man, the sound of hip hop was just horrible for a few years, man. So I can see where I kind of got divided from that shift. So I knew up until 98 it was hard. It was hip hop. Like everything was that sound, that feel.
Yeah.
After that, I wasn't interested until Little Brother came out with the Listening album, and that really got me back into hip hop because I was just listening to old stuff for about 3-4 years. I wasn't interested in none of the new stuff.
Same.
Man. So I'm thinking maybe, I don't know, young people, maybe, I don't know where the disconnect might have come from with them. I'm thinking around Carter Free time, there was another shift as well within hip hop. But yeah, what do you guys think, man? Like, where do you think the disconnect maybe came in?
I think, and people talk about this a lot. I feel like you're 100% right. I feel like that 97 divide. I mean, 97. I think kind of anywhere between 96 and 98, we were seeing things kind of turn on its head. But that 97 divide, man, that was when, if you think about it, like growing up, right? You always had mainstream like pop attempts at rap music, right? You had Vanilla Ice, you had Young Black Teenagers, you had I mean, not even that they were pop, but just gimmicky, you know? You had MC Hammer, you had all of that.
Criss Cross, we had Naughty by Nature, we had all the anthemic kind of hip hop.
But like Naughty by Nature is a great example because hip hop always decided what out of those attempts at pop music were credible and what weren't. So you can see Naughty by Nature is a great example because they had pop crossover hits, but hip hop at its core always said, nah, but Naughty are good.
Exactly.
They're not outsiders. They're not trying to exploit it. They just crossed over with something, you know, like it never felt like. Whereas with Hammer, you know, there's a reason Hammer was getting booed at the Latin Quarter in New York back in the day. Like hip hop itself are like, nah, this isn't it, you know. And I think what happened with, you know, there were always major labels that kind of came in and were saying, all right, like, you know, let's throw this, let's keep attempting to try and make this as pop as possible. And I think what they did is they realized that Puff essentially is of the culture, right? Puff's from the culture. Puff gave us one of the greatest rappers we've ever seen. Puff comes from an environment and a background where he is deeply rooted within the culture, whether you're talking about his history at Uptown, you know, like who he was in Harlem or whatever, the people he was around, like the people that co-signed him. So when you've got somebody who's trusted within the culture, if you can get them to flip things on their head, you've kind of infiltrated the key audience that you need to dictate what is or what isn't acceptable. So suddenly hip hop itself said, no, this is all right. It's all right to actually celebrate not caring about artistic integrity. Puff did. Puff said, yeah, I can't rap. I don't care. If you diss me, you're a play hater. And it's acceptable within hip hop to say, yeah, that's cool. Whereas before hip hop said, nah, this is not like, this is
trash. This is garbage.
So he made it. And that was like, Puff is a great example of, I don't know how to best put this into words, but like, he is the poster boy for like infiltration, right? If that makes sense, like white capitalist agenda. Like how do you infiltrate something? Like you need somebody on the inside. And Puff is the poster boy for the person that went, fuck it, I'll do it.
Clive Davis's little puppet.
Yeah.
But what are we saying about Biggie though? Because let's play devil's advocate for a minute. Then everyone knows Biggie. We all know that. But as much as people say they hate the bling era, Biggie was a bling rapper to a degree. Do you know what I mean? And I ain't obviously dissing Big. Big was one of my favorite rappers, even at the time. But let's be honest though, that same era that we put down, Biggie was running it at that time. Do you know what I mean? So what would have been interesting was to see what happened after '97.
But would you really class Big as a bling rapper?
Definitely, bro. Think about it, man. So when you look at it, I think Big gets a pass because of how skillful he was. At the same time, he'll do like a more money, more problems. But then, you know, we still got a Who Shot You on the back burner. So we give him the pass because we obviously know he can cater for all arenas. But when you look at Life After Death, skillfully, we obviously know Big was on another plane on that album. But a lot of your '97 drops that we say were bling, like hip hop, Biggie was doing that as well, if we're honest. You know what I mean? In fact, it was Biggie that was saying to Puffy, rap. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where really Biggie should have been saying, bro, you're not a rapper, don't do it. But he was encouraging him to.
I don't know if I put Big under the bling era. I'd say he was talking about Versace shades and Coogie sweaters and
but so was
that. But he was saying it in a way that was like, he was actually doing that. Like he was wearing the Versace
He had
shades.
that, yeah.
He was trend setting. He wasn't just saying, you know, I've got 30 million over here and I've got for me it just felt like he was actually just talking what he's doing. It didn't feel like it was jiggy rap to me. And because he could actually rap and he was rapping over Buck Wild and RZA.
Right.
He wasn't rapping over Jermaine Dupri beats talking about, you know what I mean? Like I've got all the money in the world. I don't know. For me, it didn't seem like
there's always been an element of that in hip hop. Slick Rick embodied that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I feel like there's nothing wrong with I mean, that's a part of the culture, but I feel like for me, it was a celebration of lack of skill. It wasn't even necessarily it was Puff's stance was, I've got money, so being like not having a talent means nothing because I got more money than you. Right. That's the issue that I had with whereas with Slick Rick or with a Kane, it was always like, yeah, I got more money than you, but I'll out rap you.
I was dope. Exactly.
As well. Yeah, okay.
Exactly. So
like,
if you remember,
so it's more the artist than the actual.
Yeah.
Puffy said, I don't write rhymes, I write checks. Puffy said, I take hits from the 80s and make them sound so crazy. So he's telling you, I'm not doing nothing. I'm taking a song that was already a hit and I'm going to make it a hit again.
Yeah.
And then he told you, he was just basically just riding off, I'm not good at anything.
Yeah.
But if you don't like my stuff, you're a hater. And people up to this day still ride with that hater thing. And this ties nicely into the generational divide because if I say I don't like that shit, I don't like Young Thug, I don't like Migos, I don't like none of that shit, immediately I'm a hater, rather than I just don't like that auto-tune double time nonsense music.
Yeah.
Me. And Puffy made that okay for people to go, you're just a hater. If you don't like this, you're a hater. But hip hop was all about thinking for yourself. When I was younger, there was a crew of us that liked hip hop. In our whole school, there was a nucleus of us that loved hip hop. We'll go out, buy the music, listen to it, talk about it, be beatboxing, rapping in the lunchrooms, freestyling.
Yeah.
There was a crew of us. There wasn't everybody like it is now, where everybody is a hip hop.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think at that time it was a lot for us to invest. Like we were investing time, money, everything into the culture of hip hop. So to be called a hater of something that you've grown up with, it literally makes no sense whatsoever. Because you say something.
It's interesting because I try and explain this to people as well. I mean, and we're speaking from a very British London sense, because maybe in New York, if you went to school in New York and you were 15 years old, everyone was into hip hop at that time.
Yeah, exactly.
To London, it's like most people didn't listen to hip hop.
Nah.
Most people didn't listen to hip hop. They would listen. It was jungle. It was R&B. You know, it was. I mean, this
even
is
dancehall, ragga.
Ragga. Yeah.
This is it. And I know we probably listened. I definitely listened to dancehall. I listened to R&B.
Yeah.
I grew up on dancehall. Before hip hop, I was dancehall and ragga.
There you go. So it's not to say that we didn't all listen to those genres and embrace them, but I try and explain this to people all the time. I'm like, the people now, specifically in London, that are our age, that are the spokespeople for hip hop, they didn't grow up on hip hop. They weren't into hip hop. Maybe they like Tupac, or like probably even like Biggie, but they weren't listening to Smith and Wesson. They weren't they weren't like. There was a very unique group of people that was really into it.
Right. Exactly that. You're 100% right, man. And
yeah, man.
Thinking along those lines, I know that me and you, Snips, we've spoken about this before, man, because we were definitely in the same venues, man. I mean, I used to go to your nights down in Hackney, like back in the day.
Yeah.
But there was something you said one time, and I was like, me and Snips, man, because I used to roll with Swerve and Westwood and all them kind of guys, right. Back in the day. And there'll be a point in the night where me and my guys would be like, Swerve's about to drop that Ja Rule song, right? Yeah. And then we knew exactly who was gonna be like, this is the Ja Rule tune. But me and my guys were like, this is nonsense, right? So, right there, the generational divide we could see, because if you're talking about someone who was sort of maybe, I don't know, 18, 17 years old, they don't mind listening to a Always on Time or a Mesmerize or some nonsense like that. But for us, we thought that was absolute nonsense.
Yeah,
100%. People now saying Ja's a legend and he's got hits and that, he was always a joke to us. So it goes over my head. I don't understand how people are trying to make him out to be this.
You're talking to
MC. It don't make sense, bro.
That I was a racist because I didn't respect Nelly. Like
I remember that one.
You know what I mean? Like, and to me, that was such a great example of the generational divide, because I try to explain to people like, like I know the clubs I was in, and Nelly got played in those clubs. I'm not saying I know who was into it and who wasn't.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And who actually wanted to hear it. And I'm trying to explain to people like, and I had a couple of older like New Yorkers and stuff that were like, yeah, our age group were not listening to that.
We're not, man.
Like,
no way, man.
But because this is, you got to think about like, for young people now, their start point, their reference point of when things started was what you can research on the internet.
Yeah, it was Carter free.
Yeah, it's like we experience that stuff in real time, but there's very little evidence of that. You know, like even if you go and you listen to tapes at the Tunnel, all right, at the late 90s.
Yeah.
Because all of those tapes are online. You can go and stream Flex's live sets from the Tunnel. Do you know what Ja Rule records got played on there? Holla Holla.
Yeah.
And, the Murderers record.
Yeah.
They
were the only ones that we really respected by hip hop at the time. No?
Yeah.
I mean, I might be wrong. I wasn't in the Tunnel. I wasn't old enough. When I first came to New York, the Tunnel had just shut down. But those were the records that were getting played.
Yep.
You know, and it's like, I get it. For 12-year-olds at the time, they were hearing Always on Time or whatever on the box, or like on MTV or on the radio. So when they grow up, those are their points of reference. But for adults at the time,
it was nonsense music.
I wasn't here in New York. I'm only going off what my elder statesmen that I know that I'm around in New York have told me about that era.
Yeah.
But I was there in London, and I remember it like. Westwood did start to play those records at raves at the Temple. He was playing those records. We know Westwood went down that road, but we also know who he was catering.
Exactly.
Not us.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is.
For the uni students.
And the crazy thing is, it's not like we were old at that point. We were 20, 21 at that point.
Yeah, 21, 22. Yeah.
Into this, it wasn't at that point. It wasn't a generational divide. It was just a hip hop divide.
Exactly.
I
like this hard shit. I don't like this Grease remake video. I don't like the singing. I don't like all that fluffy shit. I like my raps hard, and as Fife said, I like my beats hard like 2-day-old shit. Exactly. I didn't like all that fluffy. And if you notice, they brought in this thing called urban. That's what really pissed me off. Because back in the day, when you went to go buy music and you went to HMV, hip hop was stuffed in the rock and pop section. Like you had to search for where the hip hop was because there wasn't a hip hop section.
Yeah.
Then they upgraded slightly around the time Muddy Waters and something come out. Then there was a little tiny hip hop section in HMV. Then it turned into urban. So they put in hip hop, they put in R&B, they put in soul, they put in anything with black people on it. So you had Mystique. You had
that's just all gelled in.
You had all these people lumped into hip hop and R&B, even though they're not making R&B music or hip hop. So I think then as well, like you've got people that will listen to those people and think that's hip hop because they're black people making music, but nothing to do with hip hop.
The same in England right now. Like any black artist is grime.
Yeah,
anybody's grime.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, R&B singer. He's a grime artist. Like. But you know what's interesting as well, man, is that like a lot of the conversation, like, do you remember when hip hop became really nerdy in the late, like, see the people, like there was people like us that were going to Temple and going to Subterranea, and we got tired of it, right? And then there was the new wave of kind of like student-y hip hop that were very much into like the Kung Fu world or the Mr. Bongo's world or whatever, and they had a very like. Yeah, R&B's the devil. Don't listen to R&B. R&B's like, and I was always trying to explain because I knew a lot of those kids that were coming to Deal Real, and I was like, there's nothing wrong with R&B. Like, the thing that you're saying that you hate hip hop for, it ruined R&B as well.
Yeah, facts.
Like, that amalgamation ruined R&B because R&B was great.
Yeah, it was.
Like for me,
early R&B. Yeah,
excited by Maxwell or a Total or a Faith Evans early album just as much as I was for a Smooth the Hustler or Smith & Wesson.
Yep.
That kind of like blurring of the lines and hip hop and R&B being one genre, that ruined R&B equally as much as it ruined.
Yep. Absolutely. And it was all dictated by the labels.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, the only people that were making the music they really wanted to make was people like Master P and Cash Money. Yeah. Everybody else was being told, you need to make a song that sounds like Always on Time. You need to get an R&B chick on your hook.
Yeah.
You need to start singing. You need to start harmonizing. Because if you're just coming out hard, no one's gonna play your shit. And they removed when I came up, it was all about Afrocentric. We were proud to be black. We had the Malcolm X medallions. We had the cross colors suits. That turned into we gotta kill each other. We gotta shoot each other. We got to fuck as many bitches as we possibly can. We got to do all this kind. So that was a complete shift for me from I'm black and proud all the way to like this gangster, like the whole 90s thing. And that was all dictated by the record labels as well. So they played the big part in the generational divide because my uncles who brought me up on De La Soul, Charcoal Quest, Jungle Brothers, the Native Tongues, they don't listen. They can't listen to gangster rap because they're like, I'm not listening to this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So for them, it was I liked it when it was black pride and this is who I am and I'm teaching you stuff. KRS would be teaching me stuff on a record when I was a kid.
See, I have a theory on this. I have a theory on this as to why they got panicky about that. And I genuinely believe, right? I don't think that they, as well, I say they, you know, such a like
the label owners,
you know, like like
we know
the powers that be or whatever.
LC at Def Jam.
Yeah, so I don't think that they care about whether or not the music, the Black Power movement within the native tongues or whatever, or poor righteous teachers. I don't think they care about the effect it had on uplifting Black people. I don't think that's what they were panicking about. I think what they were panicking about is that they started realizing that young white kids were being educated by a lot of this music. So you started to see Public Enemy concerts.
Loads of white people. It's even to this day. Lots of people at Public Enemy shows.
You know, and I think that was more the thing. It's like, I feel like that's what panicked. That's what, like,
isn't that one in the same thing though? Because if you think about it, if you've got a load of young Black people like, I'm Black and I'm proud, and you got white people like, I stand with you, brother. That's what we had basically. Because I don't remember a period when, you know, I was like, you know, F white people or whatever. It was all like, if there was a white guy who loved hip hop, like he was my guy. Like, you know what I mean?
That was the union.
I never experienced that personally. If you loved hip hop, I didn't care what color you were. It was like a language we spoke.
I never got that back in the day. It's a really weird thing. That's very much a Twitter, like current, you know, like current climate, you know, social discussions on that. That's what I never got that back in the day, because
it never happened. Never happened.
We were outside and we were actually, like interacting with people. So you go into hip hop parties. I've definitely been in parties where I don't even think I saw a single other white person, but I never felt like I was unwelcome or, you know, because the attitude I always got from people was like, well, you're here, so
you must know.
Obviously, the reason you're here, like, you know.
Exactly.
But what I was going to say is the reason I think it panics them is because, and I've always thought this, I always felt like, you know, if you think about like who has the power to change things, right? Unfortunately, the people that have the power to change things are not the people who are in the minority and the people that are oppressed, right? The power to change comes from the people who have the power and are in the majority that realize, all right, we actually have to start doing something to uplift this community, right? So I genuinely always felt that like, that's what panicked them when they started to see the amount of white people that said, nah, okay, right. Because you got white people in, and the way they consume hip hop now is different, right? Like young white kids in middle America.
Yeah, of course.
I was going to add that as part of the divide as well.
And they're just that, you know, and there's a reason that they're consuming the music that they are. Like it's caricature entertainment. But like, if you go back 30 years and you've got middle American kids that are listening to Brand Nubian, or they're listening to, you know, Poor Righteous Teachers or the X Clan or whatever, you're consuming information that is so far removed from
what you get taught in school,
of the current climate.
Exactly. And I don't think that they wanted the future presidents of the world or the future kind of record label owners, because that's what a lot of these middle American young white kids are, to have that understanding and to feel as though, all right, we need to actually do something here. And that's what really made them be like, no, we need to change the narrative. And if we're going to entertain middle American white kids, it needs to be done with Kodak Black. Because, you know, they can like it, but really they're laughing at it.
Yeah, and they're not saying nothing. So that whole thing about
there's no content
down, that definitely exists. And nobody's going to tell me any different. There was definitely an agenda to dumb down hip hop. Because if I can listen to stuff when I was 14, and I'm listening to Return of the Boom Bap and all that kind of stuff, or I'm listening to BDP, when I was even younger than 14, but listening to what they were saying on the records, you're not getting that now. Like, I can't think of one person now who's talking that kind of talk that they were talking back then, and that shit was getting released. I was listening to early Ice Cube albums the other day, and I was like, how are white people listening to this? Like, you know what I mean? Like, on nothing. We're not getting that nowadays. And I'm thinking like, kids now wouldn't be able to go back and listen to that because they'll say, oh, it's homophobic, it's this phobic, it's that phobic. At the time, we were just like, rah, like this guy's got a lot to say. this guy's got a lot on his mind.
There has to be context for that, right? Because that's not to say Ice Cube wasn't saying things that were homophobic or he wasn't saying things that were anti-Asian or whatever. But you have to take into context who people were at the time of the music being made, right?
Yeah.
And that's not to say we can't go back and look at things and be like, that was problematic. But you can't discount somebody's otherwise positive statement because of a problematic understanding of another issue at the time that, to be honest, was seen as very normal, right?
Right.
Like, you see Bob Dylan, yeah?
Yeah.
He's got a song called, the name escapes me, but he's talking about Reuben Carter, the boxer.
Yes.
Right?
My dad, yeah.
So he uses the M-word in the song.
Yeah. My dad used to play that song all the time.
So he uses the M-word to describe, like, he's not saying it in a context where he's calling black people the M-word. What he's saying is, he's saying, I can't remember the lyric. It's basically saying to black people, he was just another crazy M-word, right?
Yeah.
But people don't like that now because, like, well, why is he saying the word?
Why is he allowed to say it?
And I'm trying to explain to people that at the time, in context, that song was madly progressive to come from a white Jewish, you know.
Yeah.
That was a massively supportive and embraced song because of what he was talking about, and he was shining light on something that essentially black artists didn't feel like they could talk about because they didn't think the labels would actually support music talking about stuff like that. So it was a madly positive song. But if you take it in today's context, all you're going to take from it is, why is this white Jewish guy saying
That's it. And that adds again, like, there's so many things as we're going through, man. This is good. So we're adding so many layers onto this damn generational divide, man, because what the stuff that we was listening to then, it wasn't that we were desensitized to it, but it was like we could take that in and understand what they were saying and where they were coming from. So NWA made F the police for a reason. Because every single day they were getting harassed by police, beaten up by police, Yeah. Do you think that a group called Niggas with Attitude could release a song called F the Police today? It would never happen. Never happen. So
that's right.
Kids today would not understand angsty music. They wouldn't understand anti-music. They would immediately label it with something. And that's another thing as well that I can't tolerate. I'm not listening to coke rap or bling rap or whatever, like, boxes you want to put things in, because for me, it always feels like they're kind of trying to dehumanize these rappers. So if a rapper gets shot tomorrow and he's 16 years old, the headline is going to be rapper shot. It ain't going to be his name or man is killed or whatever. It's going to be rapper. Immediately they're dehumanizing this guy, regardless of if he was a conscious rapper. You know, he's never been in a gang, nothing. As soon as you see that word rapper, you're a criminal, you're a womanizer, you're a drug dealer, blah, 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 blah. And I think all of that plays a part as well, because we never had that again coming. We had like Snoop try to get into the UK. They were banning him because he smoked weed, funny enough. But now we've got like a whole new thing of rappers can't say certain words, otherwise they're cancelled. So they can't even make the music that they want to make because people they're not gonna hear it. They're gonna either get, you know, demonetized, labels ain't gonna take them on, all of that kind of stuff. So the actual genre itself is getting watered down to the point where rappers can't make what they want to make.
I think we're in a weird time where I'm on the fence about certain things, because on one hand, I do think what I don't want to be is the hip hop equivalent of the 55-year-old football fan that's like, well, back in my day, call them jungle bunnies, and it was like, because there are people like that are like, normal when I was young, and you know, and maybe it was normal, but it's not all right. So you know,
and it wasn't all right then.
It wasn't all right then, you know. But you just thought it was, you know. It's my thing. It's like if we just take homophobia for an example, we all went to school where everything was gay, right? No, that's gay. And using the F word was nothing. It was normal. So it's easy for us to say, well, that's just normal. That's just how it was back in the day. But for gay people, that was never all right. You know. So I'm still of a mindset where it's like, I understand context, right? And it's the same way that, like, if I speak to a 70-year-old white person and she uses the term colored, I don't automatically think she's an evil person. I understand that was normalized for her. I'll correct her or him, and I'll explain why. I don't necessarily think it makes her evil. I think she was consuming something at the time that was seen as normal.
That was totally okay.
Yeah, but it wasn't okay.
Yeah.
I rather than chastise her, I try and explain to her why it's not okay now. And what I try and do in today's climate is be like, all right, try and find that line, right? Where are people just being overly sensitive and looking to kick up a fuss for the sake of clout or whatever? Or where did we genuinely get it wrong and we need to be held accountable for it? And again, that's not to say we need to go back and chastise music 30 years ago, because it is what it was, and you know, you have to take things in its context. But then there's some things where I'm like, all right, yeah, fair enough. Like, that shouldn't be normalized anymore. We should try and move to a better place where we're not, you know, because we didn't pay attention. Like, bro, hip hop didn't pay attention to how gay people felt in the 90s.
Yeah, exactly.
No, man, it was just at the end of the day, man. It's like this,
no doubt.
Man. I agree with you as well, to be honest. But also, I think Uncle Luke fought for freedom of speech, right?
Yeah.
And there's a parental advisory sticker on these albums.
Yeah.
So you can choose not to listen to them if you don't want to at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But also, I do think that there is a responsibility for a lot of these people, especially if they know that they have an audience, to not be a dickhead, basically, you know. as much as humanly possible.
I'm with freedom of speech, and this is a really controversial thing to say, but I also believe that if people want to make horrible, racist, hateful music, they have a right to do that.
And they do. Like Johnny Rebel exists, bro.
Right, that's what I'm saying, and they do. If I ever meet those people, I'm happy to go toe to toe and fight on it. But I do believe they have a right to make whatever art that they want to make.
Right.
And I think, you know, bro, even as a white guy, I'm not going to go to a Dead Prez show and leave. And that's not to say I don't agree with Dead Prez's politics. For the most part, I do. But if they start calling white people crackers or whatever, I'm not going to go to a Dead Prez show and get offended by that, because you go to a Dead Prez show.
Exactly my point.
Exactly my point. Like the overall content of their message.
Right.
So the few little bits here where I might be like, ooh, or whatever, I take that as part of the whole context. Like, that's just what it is.
Right.
I've chosen to go. Yeah. I've chosen to engage with music that, you know, for the large majority of I support and I understand. So I
you think that's part of growing up? I mean, for me, I'll use an example of Ice Cube, Cave Bitch, right?
Yeah.
When I was younger, that song was hilarious.
Yeah.
Hilarious. And I didn't think it was hilarious in a sense of he's saying it to be spiteful and hateful. I just thought what he was saying was funny.
Yeah.
As I'm older and I listen to it, I'm kind of like, damn.
Bro, I got a white mother and a white
sister. I listened to that the other day and I was thinking, wow.
I think it's okay.
I'm like, damn.
It'd be like Ice Cube, like because at the end of the day, I don't think the execution of that song was necessarily right, and I don't think all the things he said in that song were acceptable. But I do think the motivation and the underlying issue of what made him
make the song in the first place. Yeah. Right.
It's a real issue.
He's a young guy. He's a young guy from Compton trying to express a genuine issue as a piece of art at that time. Yeah. I don't want to hear my mom or my sister referred to as a cave bitch. Of course not. But I get it. I get the motivation for the song.
But don't you think that the fact that we are able to understand context is the whole point of the generational divide? Because you get people now who talk about politics, they don't know what they're talking about. They're just emotionally involved. And if we wanted to, this ain't a politics show or nothing like that, but we can go into like presidents who have actually laid down policies and said, this is what I'm going to do for you, right?
Yeah.
And you get another politician who will say, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black.
Yeah.
And leave it there, right?
Yeah.
Black people will go, right, so this guy said, if I don't vote for him, I ain't black, so I'm voting for this guy.
Yeah.
I'm going to ignore the politics of what this guy actually said he's going to do for my people.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we are now. We're literally at a place where people are emotionally involved. They don't even listen to lyrics. I think you said something the other day about some dude who you had said something about Primo, And he was like, who? And you were like, DJ Premier.
That breaks my heart.
You know what I'm saying? So
Definitely, man.
if you said Primo, immediately I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
You wouldn't. No one calls him DJ Premier, not even himself.
Yeah.
So if you're talking about you love hip hop and whatever, but you don't know who Primo is, that tells me that there's a massive divide there, because how can you love hip hop and not know Primo? That just makes no sense to me.
And the thing is, it's only hip hop do we accept this in. You said before you grew up on dancehall, right? You've been to Jamaica before?
I'm from Jamaica, basically. Yeah, my family are Jamaican.
Yeah,
you've been.
I basically grew up there. Every summer I was there.
So I haven't, right? So I'm asking you here rather than making an assumption.
Yeah,
I assume that if a young dancehall artist came out, went on the radio and went, I don't give a fuck about Buju or Bounty Killer or like, fuck them, they're old. Like I'm doing this. They
might not make it out the radio station.
There you go.
Right, there you go.
So why do we?
But like you said, that's hip hop. We allow that. That's what you said. I mean, even for me, even coming into hip hop, obviously, I always mention my sister, because when I was there playing with my action figures and my toys, I was hearing all of the, you know what I mean, BDP, Public Enemy. I was hearing all of that coming from her room, and she was schooling me. I know all Public Enemy's first 5 albums by heart, not because I ever put them on a record player as such, but because I was hearing it through her. So it was her that passed down the gem. So I'm listening. When I fell in love with hip hop for myself around 91, 92, I would go back to the classics. So those 88, 89, 90 classics, I never had in real
same
time, so I had to go back to them, because you want to appreciate the culture, so you want to hear the classics that came before. But what you're about to say, like rightly saying, that respect ain't there no more. People almost want to come out and say, boy, who needs those? You know what I mean? The respect ain't there. Of course, a lot of the new rappers are going to be technically better rappers than your rappers from the 80s. Technically, obviously not people like Cool G Rap or whatever, but they're going to technically be better, but they feel like they got to come out and prove that they're better than these ones. Like, what other culture does that? What other music genre does that? They don't. Do you know what I mean?
No,
you don't get that in rock or in pop even. You don't get that.
But hip hop has always been that one genre where it's competitive. Like, I'm gonna smash you into the ground. Say that again.
Definitely competitive. But
dancehall is worse. Me and E were literally talking about this the other day when they started talking about verses,
for sure.
When they brought out verses, my mind was like, "This is amazing. I'm gonna have one artist over here talking shit about this artist over here, and he's gonna play some battle records, and he's gonna have take his beat and murder him over his beat, just like what you do in a dancehall sound clash. So you would have Shabba Ranks taking Ninja Man's beat, rapping over it, and telling him all the stuff that he's gonna do to Ninja Man. That is a clash. Versus is not that. Versus is just people just doing their songs back and forth.
The thing is, it could be that. This is why I got in an argument with someone. And this is how you know Americans, or I say Americans very blankly.
It needs to be.
A lot of New York people did grow up on dancehall. But someone was like, "Oh yeah, Missy would murder Busta Rhymes in a."
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Like, Busta Rhymes comes from a dancehall background, bro.
Yeah,
you're not taking Busta Rhymes in the clash.
No, you're not.
And if you, I'm not like I grew up listening to dancehall. I was a big dancehall fan or whatever, but I'm not ingrained in dancehall culture in the same way that you might be, right? But if you had any proximity to understanding dancehall and you were watching flipping Beanie and Bounty clashes when you were young, or Ninja, you understand what having a dancehall background means as far as being a part of your arsenal as being
absolutely
able to someone. See, Busta, you're not touching him, bro. Like
no one's touching him. No one. That's why no one wants it with him. That's why when T.I. called him out and Busta was like, "Come on, then, anytime, bro, anytime."
Yeah, like, bro.
Yeah, he pulled out.
You know, and this is the thing. I think it's interesting being in America actually, because I feel like even though this is a home of hip hop, I feel like the rooting of dancehall doesn't get the respect that it necessarily does in England, where a lot of people, a lot of people's journey into hip hop was through dancehall in England.
Yeah,
you know, and I feel like, you know, here or people of like Jamaican descent from Brooklyn or whatever, they get it. But like a lot of Americans love to just remove that from the culture. Like they're just like, nah, you're what? Kool Herc wasn't even playing reggae records. I'm like, it doesn't matter that you weren't playing reggae records. It's got nothing to do with.
I just don't think they get it. I think there's this whole new age American, a black American, who talk about FBA, foundational black Americans, and all this bullshit. Right. Try to cause division among black people as it is, but that's a whole different conversation. At the end of the day,
and that's not what I'm touching, because Twitter.
At the end of the day, right, in Jamaica, people were chatting over records from way back. Yeah. I'm talking like early 70s, like hip hop and rapping over beats and all that. Let's be honest, when hip hop started, the star was the DJ. The star wasn't even the MC. And the MC wasn't talking technical raps like they were when Kool G and Nas and all of them guys came out. And the MC was doing what Fresh Prince was doing, and he was just like talking about how good his DJ was.
Yeah.
So
DJ was. He's a DJ.
In the West Indies, the DJ, which they call the MC, he was talking all the shit.
Yeah.
So for them to say that hip hop, all the rapping and all that originated there, even the Biggie documentary showed you people were rapping over records in Jamaica way before hip hop was alive.
I think there's also a thing of like similar things happening in different places at the same time based upon similar experience.
Yeah, facts.
So like if you look at even like Jill Scott Heron and like the Last Poets and stuff, definitely rapping. And then even I was talking to Biggs the other day, Biggs, rapper Biggs.
Oh yeah, respect.
Yeah, he's over here. Biggs, and he made a good point. He was like, bro, in Nigeria, people were doing this
long time,
like so there's about like the meetings of all of these things that allowed it to birth the culture which we know as hip hop, which isn't just rapping or isn't just DJing. It's an amalgamation of things.
Absolutely.
I think because it's funny, I saw someone recently talking about the Puerto Rican influence in hip hop, and I work in a record store here in Bushwick, and I sell records to older 50-plus-year-old Puerto Rican guys who were part of this
around.
And they always make the point, they're like, we get written out of the conversation because we were never really rappers, and now it's the most cool.
They were mainly the break dancers, right? And the DJs.
The DJs and the writers. The writers, so they were like, we were there, we were a part of this. This was very much a conversation for it was working class, dejected New Yorkers that lived in the fringe outer boroughs, which was predominantly black and Puerto Rican, a handful of, working class white Jews or Italians or whatever, but predominantly black and Puerto Rican people experiencing this, and created this culture. But
you make another good point there, bro. Like, we're talking about the divide. And looking at where hip hop came from. Poor, destitute. Ain't got a place to sleep. If you listen to the stories of all the greatest rappers that we've known over time, they can all tell you a story of when they've been homeless, when they didn't have a parent, when they lost a friend at a very young age, when they were on drugs, when they were on that's when they made their greatest music, right? But now you've got people who were like 18, 19 talking about how much millions they've got. So we're seeing we were listening to struggle when we was younger. We were listening to shit, man, like I lost my girl, I lost my car, I lost my house, I'm about to go shoot someone in the face, I need to go rob someone so I can feed my daughter. Now I've got $2 million, I've got this amount of cars, I've got this, I've got that. I mean, the Roots told us about this in '96 when they made What They Do. They saw that this was coming, and we allowed this to happen.
Even if you think of how we consume the material side of the culture, right? When we were younger, think about what it meant to get a pair of Jordans, right?
Oh yeah, man, that was the greatest.
Or like a starter jacket or whatever. Like that meant everything. Like the man, if you were able to, and let's be honest, what were Jordans going for us at that point? £80?
80 quid.
Yeah, 80 quid, right? Now it's normal for kids to have a £700 pair of Rick Owens shoes.
Yeah.
Don't talk to me about struggle when you're wearing £700 shoes.
Yeah. Don't tell me about your ghetto, man. Go to Brazil to your ghetto.
Yeah, so I think the class element has crept into hip hop, and like I feel like there's I'm always going to be careful when I speak on this, being a white guy in this culture, and this is obviously black music, right? But as you said, this also comes from an environment of struggle and poverty, right? So if you're removed from the racial side of this conversation is one thing, but if you're also removed from the struggle side of it, there's also another disconnect to being able to understand what this culture is about, right?
Absolutely.
I sometimes feel like when I'm seeing discussions around hip hop and it's solely coming from privately educated middle class people, regardless of what they are, it's like you have to see the irony in gatekeeping something that you're so far removed from, even if you are the same color as the people that you're saying to represent. And I'm trying to say this carefully because I know it's not my position to say this, but
no, I get you though. Yeah.
No, I hear what you're saying.
It's like, I don't know, man. And I've definitely learned this from living in New York. New Yorkers who are from it and were birthed in it, they don't fuck with anybody, bro. They feel like everybody's a gentrifier to this culture. Do you know what I mean?
True.
I remember speaking to a good friend of mine, and she was talking about when that whole Nelly shit happened with me online, and she's like, "Do you know how wild it is for me to see British-born 20-year-olds trying to gatekeep hip hop? Like, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You are not from this." If you look like me, you're not from this. Like, you don't get to, decide what is or isn't hip hop. You've never come from, like, do you see what I'm saying? Like,
if you think of the amount of money, look at what's behind you as we sit here speaking, right? Yeah. Look, if you actually counted the amount of money that you've invested into every single one of those records that you've got behind you, right?
I don't even want to think about that because it will break.
There you go. And we're just talking monetary value at this point, okay? So the amount of money and time and effort that you put in to learn how to DJ, to learn how to play to a crowd, to learn how to produce, all of that kind of stuff that you do, and then you've got some guy who probably can't even spell ABC, probably can't even pay to feed his kid, tell you what hip hop is. Like, come on, man. And this is why, like, when it comes to things like Twitter and stuff, I love chopping up with people who are like-minded, and even some people who we have opposing views, but we can still shake hands and agree at the end of the day. Like, okay, cool. We don't agree on this one, but we're still friends.
Yeah.
You've got people who will try and tell someone like Snips or whoever who's actually been part of this culture for years, who is respected, that he don't know nothing because he said something about Nelly, someone who was not respected by people that listen to hip hop, and that is a massive part of the divide that we're talking about.
Yeah. And it's the thing, man. It's hard because I am opinionated, and at the same time, like, I get it. Like, I understand the optics of if you're a 19-year-old black kid from St. Louis, right, and you see this 40-year-old white guy who's just disrespecting them. I understand the optics of what that looks like. He's gonna be like, fuck this guy. Who the fuck is this?
When you put it like that, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I get that. Like I think no matter, how much skin you've got in the game, pardon the pun, like, if you're white and you're in this culture, like, it doesn't matter how deep rooted you are in it. There's always a level of what's the word, like, self, like, understanding who you are in a conversation. You have to. Like, it doesn't, like we can have a conversation like this. We all come from the same place. We all were in the same parties. We all probably come from a very similar environment in London. So we can speak frankly, we understand each other, but not everybody's come from that, and they don't understand why somebody like me, because I remember one guy saying, I don't understand why he gets props from Gigs, or why he gets props from Rodney P, or all these legends in the hip hop world. And it's like, there's a reason you don't understand that. There's a reason you don't
exactly.
because you're not supposed to understand. Personally, I feel like you should have the humility to maybe think, all right, if everybody is then maybe there's a reason. But I get it. You don't, like, from your viewpoint, and I understand that. I understand why you would look at me in that way, and that's cool. Like, that's whatever. Like, that's part of being a visual outsider in a culture that you didn't essentially help create, right? I understand. I'm not mad at that at all. So I think that's something going back to this generation divide, I feel like that's something that maybe age gives you that clarity to understand that.
Yeah.
You know, where you're sitting, I get why I look mad to you. You have to understand that from other people, it doesn't look mad.
Yeah,
you understand that as elders, right? And I think a lot of the time, young people only see things from where they're sitting, you know, so they miss so much context on why so many things are normalized within this culture. Like even going back to what we were saying about why rappers in the 90s freely use the word faggot. You would never use that word, right? But they freely use it. If I spoke to older, gay, 40-year-old hip hop fans, probably not going to have the same issue with it because they understand the context it was in the time as a 20-year-old would. I don't want to speak for the gay community, by the way. Please, Twitter, that's not what I'm doing. Like, leave me alone. But you know what I'm saying? Like, there's an understanding of context as you get older, and you've seen things from many different standpoints. You know, and I think, I also think that we experience so many things, like so many things are abstract in concept, in concept, right? Even if you think about racism, a lot of the time racism is an abstract concept. I'm not talking about like crazy KKK wanting to hang people. Like I'm talking like just, you know, like your everyday
casual everyday racism.
Right. A lot of the time it's a concept, right? So if you've got a guy that lives in Middle England who's like, oh, I don't like these blacks, I don't like the way they play football, they've missed a penalty, the immigrants taking our jobs, blah blah blah. But like, you know, just like casual, typical Middle England racism. If that man is now forced to have a conversation or work with a black guy, right? Suddenly he's then faced with a human being, right? And that's not to say that person is going to remove his bigotry or whatever, but suddenly it adds a nuance to his understanding of the thing that he thinks he's got an understanding of. Because you're actually faced with an interaction, and suddenly you realize, oh, this black guy likes the same TV shows I like, or he likes, and suddenly you start to humanize something that in your head before was just a concept, right? Yeah. And I think we grew up pre-internet, which means that not just racism, like anything, right? We were constantly forced into interactions and into environments where any kind of like pre-ideas of things that we had were given a level of context and nuance because we were forced to live them, right? Now you talk about a generation that is so much more just consuming culture online. There's no gray area for anything. Everything is an absolute now. Everything's either wrong or right.
Either classic or trash. It's either great.
There's no in between.
There's no in between.
It's progressive or it's bigoted. Like there's like, do you know what I mean? It's like there's no room for context.
Do you know what I think that is? And I think we can wrap this up quite nicely actually. By this point is if you think about it, we have places to go. We could go to Subterranea. We could go to the Temple. We could go to Dark and Cold and get our clothes. We could go to the record store and buy vinyl and talk to Ronnie Harrell or Woody behind the desk or whatever in the shop. Or we could go to HMV and scroll through the CDs and listen to them on the headphones and decide if we want to buy them or not. Or we could go to Mr. CD and just buy one on a whim. I bought Eminem's album on a whim. I think I'd heard a few freestyles from him. But I heard My Name Is, and that was it. But I bought the album. And I bought the album because I thought what I heard was cool. But I didn't have anything to go on to think that this was going to be a great album. You know what I mean? I bought it. But you don't have those spaces now for people to go to and really talk about hip hop or really learn about like what it's like to go record shopping or clothes shopping or sneaker shopping and all the stuff that we used to do that was part of the culture. You don't have that now. I mean, people don't even buy shoes in the stores no more. They use the sneakers. So I think that is a bit of a disconnect as well, because you don't really get to meet like-minded people. You get to speak to them on Twitter and stuff. But again, you're dealing in absolutes. But if you actually get to speak to them face to face, then you get nuance. Yeah. I think that adds a part of it as well.
Yeah. And I think on top of that as well, like we had tribes back in the day, right?
Yeah.
You knew who your people were. I could meet you in the street, not know you, and be like, oh, he's wearing Jordan 4s, Do you know what I mean?
He's got a starter jacket. You remember you used to check the jackets for the S and the star?
Yeah.
Because they used to make there was another brand who used to make those jackets. It was like, that ain't starter, man. Get out of here.
But you know what I mean? You'd see the way someone was dressed, and you'd be like, oh, he probably listens.
He knows about it. Yeah.
You know, and then you find your little tribe of people, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that doesn't exist anymore. Like everybody's the same. Like everybody's the same. There's no kind of like, all right, let me give you this example, right? See, in the early noughties, right? You have the regular fair weather people that were into urban music, right? They was listening to, like we were saying, Nelly, Jar, whatever, maybe Jay, Kanye, and you know, they were going to Rainforest Cafe in the West End and wherever else.
I hate that place, man.
Awful. Then you had the cooler kids, right? The cooler kids were listening to Little Brother, Doom, Dilla, you know, Raven in Plastic People, maybe in East. Like those were the kids who were like pushing culture forward or whatever, right? Those were the kids that now you've got same thing, mainstream Essex kids coming down, going to, you know, if we're talking New York, like Bridge and Tunnel crowd, going and listening to Cardi B and Migos and wearing Off-White or whatever, right? And now you think about the cool kids, the ones that are like working in the industry, pushing culture forward. They're wearing and listening to the same thing.
Yeah.
Wearing and listening to the same thing as the Bridge and Tunnel crowd or the Essex crowd. No kind of like deeper level to any cultural movement anymore. Everything is just the same. Everybody consumes it in the same way, wears the same thing, listens to the same thing.
But that's by design, bro. That's by design. And the thing is, hip hop was completely the opposite, man. And the reason I loved it was because it was so anti. Like pop music was, let's all be happy, let's all hold hands, let's all sing a song. Hip hop was like, fuck you. Fuck politicians. And that was what really kind of brought me into it. So I was like, whoa, what are these guys going through? And I listened to Ice Cube once say, hip hop is the way that we communicate with people, because I can make a song and then my brothers in London can know how I'm feeling. My brothers in Nigeria can know how I'm feeling. My brothers in Jamaica. And that's exactly what it is. It's like he can make a song and everyone's like, damn, is that how it's really going down in Compton right now? Yeah. But now everything is so, we used to have regions, right? So we knew Sean Price was from New York. We knew Jay-Z was from New York. We knew Lil Wayne was from the South. Now I couldn't tell you where some of these guys come from.
It sounds the same.
It all just sounds exactly the same.
Everything is, and this is globalization, like summed up, you know. And I think, I don't know. I don't know how to like pinpoint it, but I feel like what you said about anti sums it up. And I think to bring this all the way full circle to how we started this conversation, that era, and you know, people will argue that you can't put all the blame on one man, and maybe we're simplifying it by being like, oh, it's Puff's fault.
It is Puff's fault. Fuck you, Puff.
There's more at play, right? Like there's more at play beyond Puff, right? And the whole concept of anti sums it up. Somehow this went from counterculture to pop culture.
Exactly that.
That's what it is.
And it became a vehicle to ridicule everything it once stood for. And it did that. And it's not to say all hip hop that came after that was pop culture. It wasn't. There was, you know, even Kanye at his early stages was very much going against the grain of norms, and he retired, you know. Like you said, the Little Brothers of the world, the Dooms, the Dillas, the Mad Libs, like all of these guys have been trying to restore balance. But essentially, it flipped on its head, and it went from counterculture to pop culture.
I think because we got a lot of enablers as well in hip hop. We got a lot of people like, I'm gonna call you out, Semtex, because a couple of times you've been enabling trash. Like I remember when Kanye dropped Jesus is King, and I saw a tweet saying, this is a classic, this is a 5 mic album, blah 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 blah. And kids will look up to that and go, well, if he's saying it, then it must be true. You know what I mean? We've got people that just enable the bullshit, man. Like just call it as it is. We used to have people that would say, "Bro, this is." We used to have DJs that will throw records in the bin and be like, "This is trash."
Yeah.
We don't get that now. Everything is good. Everything is great.
And this goes back to what I was saying. It's not just young people's fault. A lot of the time, it's our age group, and they
We take responsibility, man. We have to.
But because they're so scared of being called old. Or
I was gonna say they're like that for a reason. Yeah.
Scared of it that they just support the bullshit, which is why, again, man, you know, Shorty and MK deserve all the flowers because
all the love for Shorty, man. Shorty's my guy.
Continually trying to fight the good fight, you know. Numbers too, but he just got to the point where he was like, "Yeah, I'm out."
Had enough. Yeah,
miss Numbers, man.
Yeah, big up to Numbers, man.
Definitely, man.
Like Stretch Armstrong, Evil D. These are guys I've had conversations with where they're just like, "I'm not doing it. I'm not pretending that this is okay." You know,
it's because they want to stay relevant. That's why they do that. These DJs now, a lot of them, they're scared to become irrelevant. So that's why they endorse all that, man.
I mean, we can do a whole other show, bro, on, you know, why these artists feel that they have to conform, and we know that it's not just because they enjoy the music they're making. We know that there are forces at play that make them make this music, and it could be a case of, you know, if you don't make this music, then that house you got, that car you got, all those girls that you got, that's gone. You make the music I tell you to make, otherwise you're out of here.
Yeah, I've got a theory on this, right? Because the argument is, well, nah, they want to make that music because that music is popping even before they got signed. This is what they're making, right? And my theory is this, right? Think about when the Locks came out and they did the shiny suit shit, right?
That's the exact example I was thinking of.
They didn't want to do that. And they've come out afterwards and be like, that wasn't us. You know, we grew up on Coogee Rap, Rakim. We didn't want to do that. This is what we're going to do, right?
Yep.
Because they have a reference point pre-hip hop turning on its head, right?
Yeah.
Now imagine you're 21 years old from Atlanta and you're making trash. Yeah. Not saying every 21-year-old from Atlanta is making. And imagine you are one of these kids that's making dog shit, right? You like they've played the game. Right? Have played the game so well. They don't even need to tell this 19-year-old kid what to make because this 19-year-old kid has consumed trash his entire life and thinks that that's what he should be making.
Yeah.
To him. So it's like they don't even need to tell you to make like stereotyping, forcing, caricature like fucking dog shit. They don't even need to force you to do it anymore. It's actually
true, man.
What you're aspiring to do because it's been ingrained now for so long in this culture. You got to think about it. 1997 was 24 years.
24, yeah, 24.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that's true.
You consumed hip hop before that.
That's true.
You would think it's normal. You would think now we're in a giant long episode of CB4. Right? And people don't even realize
CB4 and South Park. What are the two?
I did it, bro.
I think also maybe like the last point is touching on what you're saying as well. Really, is they don't consume anything outside of hip hop.
No.
Like if we're listening to Snoop, we know that Snoop loved the Delphonics and all of that kind of old soul music. Or if we listen to Ice Cube, we know he would listen to Jill Scott Heron and all of those kind of artists. And that's where he would get those influences from. Yeah. If we're listening to artists now, they're influenced by Lil Wayne. Like that's all they know. Yeah. They don't know anything that came outside of hip hop. Yeah. Like a lot of these guys were listening to stuff that was not. My parents didn't play hip hop in the house at all. I think my dad would play little bits. Like he liked Ice Cube. He liked who else did he liked Public Enemy. He liked that kind of that hard kind of hip hop. Yeah. But that wasn't the bulk. The bulk of his stuff was Marvin Gaye, Otis Redding, that kind of stuff. Yeah. My mum would listen to reggae, my aunties would listen to reggae. So I grew up on reggae dancehall. So I was doing that way before hip hop. Yeah. I don't think these kids now have any reference point outside of rap.
Well, look, even think about like, because I make house music as well, yeah? And you know what people always say when they hear my house? I like K-Tronada. Like, no, bro, I don't like K-Tronada. I don't like him, but that's
K-Tronada's not bad. He is not.
But for them, it's like, all right, what do I know outside of hip-hop? Like there may be one reference point, you know, that people have outside, but there's no and this is another thing when I talk to my older DJ friends here, they're like, listen, man, in the 90s, we were playing the best hip hop out, yeah? We were playing house music and reggae music.
You mix it up.
Rock music and like everything.
Of course.
Like, everything.
You go to a rave and you'd have bashment, you'd have a bit of garage, you'd have a bit of drum and bass or jungle, you'd have hip hop, you'd have a bit of everything, and you could kind of tell where all the influences came from with all of that music. You listen to Incredible by General Levy, that's basically a ragga tune with a drum and bass beat.
Yeah.
Mashups like that.
About what's a drum and bass beat? It's the same sped up breaks that hip hop produces.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly.
It's I mean, and I want to just say this as well, because I know we spoke about this off camera, but this is where I think there's always going to be an element of people getting older and not understanding youth movements, right? That's part of life, right? We grow up, and it's all right to be older. Like, you don't want to be the old guy trying to be cool with the kids.
Nah,
the same way when I was 12 years old, I wouldn't have wanted my dad wearing a clock around his neck. And that was sideways, you know. Like, I wanted my dad to be that. Didn't want him to be my friend. Like, it's weird, but so there's always an element of that, of like, you know, a generational disconnect with anything, right? That's normal. But specifically this generation and our generation, I genuinely believe, and like I said, because of that 97 divide, we are the last age group tuned hip hop in real time before it went from being counterculture to pop culture, right? We're the last age group that did it. And there's kids whose entry points were maybe, you know, they were a little bit more discerning in the noughties, and their entry point was by buying Mad Villainy or Little Brother. So when they went back and they traced that lineage, that lineage goes more to where we come from, as opposed to went off to post 97. So you've got kids that are younger than us that understand what good hip hop sounds like and understand where it actually came from. You have got that. I'm not discounting younger kids, and it's because of that you've got the Kendrick Lamars, or I'm not a huge fan of him, but even the J. Cole's, right? From that lineage, right? So I'm not discounting a younger audience. I'm saying, as far as who experienced it in real time, we are the last generation of people who did that. And I say that to say that the people that are older than me, like a Shorty Blitz, like a 279 or whoever, like the guys that I think of when I think of who I kind of came up underneath, they had different reference points of who their gods were. Their gods were Rakim, their gods were Kane, G-Rap, or whoever. My gods were Nas and Big and Jay and Mob and Woo or whatever. But there was an understanding. I could go back and listen to Kane and Rakim and be like, I don't think Rakim raps as well as Nas, but I understand the context of why he's great and why Nas doesn't exist without him.
Right.
And then you could have the shorties or whoever that would be like, all right, I still prefer Rakim because he means more to me, but I understand how Nas has taken what Rakim did.
Absolutely.
Right. So there was this cross-generational understanding. And even if you think about that generation, they were sampling, you know, you think about Pete Rock and Beat Miners, and they were sampling the music that came before them.
Of course.
Yeah. And they were in competition to be like, damn, where did you get that song?
And they loved that music. It wasn't as if they were just trying to rip the music. Like, they genuinely loved that music. So we're seeing, but it stopped with our generation. And I think maybe we need to take responsibility because we didn't necessarily.
I definitely do, man. I definitely do. I mean, I think we all need to. And you're so right, man. It stopped with us because I gave up in '97, man. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. In '97, when it was the Jiggy era and Puffy, like, people say, oh, you know, why do you hate Puffy, man? And I never liked him from when he was dancing in Craig Mack's videos. Like, I'm like, what is this? What's this dude doing in these videos? Like, he's not contributing nothing. He used to piss me off so much. Yeah. And when Big died and he made I'll Be Missing You, it was so disingenuous. Like, he didn't even write it. He just stole a sample. Yeah. There was just so much wrong with what was going on, man. And I just checked out. And I think a lot of people at that point as well just had enough. Especially,
I'm going to point out, bro, even if people are trying to tell you then, oh, that's because you were old and you weren't getting a new wave. No, I was 18.
I was 17.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And I had enough at 17 years old.
Like, you know, because I was the same at that point. I was getting I was getting a lot of Stretch and Bobbito tapes from New York. And that
they were the shit, man.
That whole raucous movement that happened as a response to Diddy, I was into that. I loved all of that stuff.
Yeah, me too, man.
I was 18 years old. It wasn't like I was old and just didn't get the new wave of shit. It was that like
all the Sound Bombing, Lyricist Lounge, all that kind of stuff. I was 18 years old, man.
Yeah. So this idea that you know, we just got old and didn't get it. Nah, bro.
No, we got it, and that's the problem. We can't say that the kids who are the age that we were then get it because they didn't experience it in real time like we did.
Yeah.
The problem, and it's not saying that there's anything wrong with that. As I said, I think that the responsibility lies with us in not passing it down as much as we should have, so that it's allowing them to come up and say shit like Lil Uzi Vert is better than Nas and all this kind of nonsense that they keep.
We can say that, but then at the same time, look at the machine that we're trying to fight to pass it down. Look at what you're trying to steer the youngers underneath you in a certain direction, but there's an entire machine that's saying nah.
Yeah.
Old people that don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So it's like many of us probably were trying to pass it down, or we were trying to teach, and just you got smashed out the way by this massive kind of like.
No, it's true, man. We see every day what the machine's up to, man. We see WAP, we see Cardi B, we see Megan Thee Stallion, who if she hasn't got a record to promote, she's shaking her ass every day. Like, let me keep him. You know what I mean? Like, we see what the machine's doing. We see what they're pushing in front of us.
Even with that, see, the machine sounds like we're talking about some crazy conspiracy. But like,
no, man, the machine exists.
Even look at this thing with Megan, right? I have no problem. I think it's great that women can express their sexuality in music, and I'm 100% on board with any movement that celebrates female empowerment. Right?
Just be dope. That's all I'm saying. Just be dope. Don't be a city girl like some trash ass rapper.
But even beyond the music, right? Even beyond the music, my issue is this: is be more discerning at understanding when the same capitalism that you're trying to fight, right, is just using your passion for an issue to sell back everything. Really, it's what you say that you're fighting for, right? That's my thing with is are the Megans and the Cardis. I believe that them personally, absolutely. I think they're trying. I don't listen to their music, by the way. I'm not a fan of either's music. I have no issue with them, who they are. I think, I watch the Cardi B interviews. I actually like Cardi. I think Cardi's great, and I think Cardi's a great representation of somebody who isn't media, or maybe she is now, but isn't media trained. Just saying what the great representation of.
She used to, but she can't rap. Like, that's all I care about.
She can't rap. I don't care about the music, to be honest. But I do think I like that she is. If you come to New York and you suddenly understand shit, Cardi B is the everyday Bronx girl that
for sure
people relate to, and I respect that fully. And I think she has some interesting takes on. And again, Twitter. This is not me trying to speak on female empowerment. It's not my like
disclaimer.
What I'm saying is that I think a lot of the time the powers that be will take the fact that they know people see Cardi as somebody who represents a level of empowerment for women. They take that and they use that to sell you shit. So their version of empowerment that they're selling back to you isn't what she initially stood for. So buying into sometimes like rebuying into this repackaged version of it that's been sold back to you doesn't mean that you're actually standing for what the person initially wanted to say. We can say the same with discussions around race or homophobia or whatever it is. It's like you have to understand that once there's corporate interest in it, the version that's sold back to you is not only not what the initial person wanted to say, but quite often is done in a way that goes against everything that person wanted to say, but it's somehow packaged back to you as being progressive and forward thinking. And it's
and that, my friends, is the machine.
There you go.
So no, man, that's been absolutely great, man. I really enjoyed that this week, man. Got to get you back, Snips, for sure. Got to get you back on
man.
Like, I talk to you guys so much on Twitter, and it's mad that I would say we definitely have crossed paths and just didn't know.
100%, man. 100%.
Oh, definitely, man. Definitely.
The same people moved in the same places, so it's good to be able to, as face to face as you can get on the internet.
Nah, big up, man. Thanks for coming on, man. Really
appreciate it, man.
We'll definitely get you back on another episode, man, because I think just from that discussion, there's so many more things that we could break down. So we're definitely
feel like that discussion links to so many
different things.
Definitely, man.
So many, man. So yeah. So E, man, take us out.
Yes. Yeah, man. Once again, Snips, appreciate it, man. We're gonna hit the episode up with all the links and things as well when we put up the video. So feel free to check out his music and his work, man. Rich knowledge of experience, man. We appreciate you coming on, man. But yeah, that's it for Man Knows Hip Hop this episode, man. Really appreciate you joining us again. We're gonna be back again next week for some more topics and more exciting discussions, man. So stick with us. It's gonna get better and better, man. So from E Major, from Slap Bundles, from Snips, we out, man. Have a good evening, man.
Big up.
Appreciate it.